the way the person has said it. And so we must make sure that we get the exact words. And in such a scenario, when you cite the work, you must also provide the page number where that quotation can be found. In the first instance, where you paraphrase, the expert will not pressure you to indicate the page number. All right. Both paraphrasing and quoting need to be referenced. Very, very important. It is very important because there are instances where a student has completed thesis, not only in Ghana, it has happened at the University of Ghana, it's happened in other universities outside. Several years, somebody will say that you have taken somebody's idea and you haven't acknowledged in terms of referencing, and you can lose the thesis that you have written over so many years. And so it's very important that we reference. In fact, it doesn't take anything away from you. You are only being honest. As an academic, you are only being honest that that idea is not your idea. Now, a reference list of all the sources list. Let me emphasize here that every reference has 4 elements that we should pay attention to. We're talking about who the author is, the date, the title, and where. That is either a place. So if it's even a journal, we want to know who has written that article, when, that is the date, the title of that article, and where it can be found. If it's a book, there is a place of publication and a publisher. So those are the 4 basic elements in every reference that we see. Now, there are times we don't need to provide reference, depending on what type of material you are using. For instance, when you are using your own experiences, now you are writing, it could even be a thesis, and out of the experience that you have somewhere, you want to make reference to that. Let's say I'm trying to carve out my statements. And in carving out the statement, I try to say that as a result of interaction with maybe colleague teachers or my staff, or over the years, my experience with the students that I taught, I realized so and so. In such a scenario, I'm only talking about my experience, and so I don't need to reference that. At times, artwork, because they speak for themselves, photographs, and so forth. Those things may speak for themselves, and so we don't need to reference that. Also, when you are using generally accepted facts, if I'm writing a paper and I say that when Ghana had independence in 1957, it is a basic fact that I don't need to reference. Unless I'm trying to adduce to a particular view in that 1957, there I have to reference. But if it's a general statement, general fact, I don't need to reference. At times too, when you are looking at some of the classicals, like if I'm talking about classicals, I'm talking about some of the experts that we have known in education, talking about Jean Piaget, Flaubert, and those people. At times, if you are quoting from them, sometimes of the quotations are as far as 18-something. And so sometimes you are taking it from somebody's work. Then, of course, that second source should show in your reference list. Because if I quote, let's say, Vygotsky concerning constructivism in the 18th, you might not likely see that in my reference list sometimes because the date is so far away. And those are the classicals we have known over the years. When you mention Piaget now, something comes into your mind because you are talking about cognitive theory. Is that not it? Hello? Yeah. And so sometimes you are not penalized when you mention some of those classical thoughts or those individuals who have contributed to knowledge or a theory which we are still using today. This is the one you go through our communities, you see Montessori, so and so. Everybody is using it because it is a theory that someone has come out with, which we have known. And so when you mention it, it is not a hidden fact from anyone. So those classicals sometimes may appear in the work, but you will not be penalized if it's not in the reference list because of the date. It may be in the 18th, 17th, and those things. And also, when you are using common knowledge, such as folklore, myths, or historical events, at times, those, it may not be necessary for you to reference that. Now, let's look at it from this angle. When you are looking at citing one source, I'm talking about in-text reference. If whatever you have taken, the idea is from a particular source, one person. So when you are paraphrasing an idea from one source, include the author's surnames and year of publication. I think we know that as a graduate student. I give an example here. In his book, Jikunu 2023, stresses the fundamental importance of education to society. So we know that when you are referencing from one source, what we need is the person's surname and not the other initials, since it's an in-text. Other initials only comes in when you are writing your reference list at the end of the work. For example, Central Molding Society is a belief in the importance of education, Aqua 2022. When you are putting it at the end of the text, it is just the surname, like we have said. I think you know most of these things, so we are just rehearsing. Now, if you are citing more than one source for the same idea, more than one, so it means that an idea that has come from two authors, how do we cite that in the work? When there is more than one source for the same idea, all relevant sources should be cited within one set of brackets, or what we call parentheses, in alphabetical order and separated with semicolons. So where the idea is coming from more than one source, and this, the idea does not belong to one person, then we need to cite that. When you are citing, you go alphabetical order. That is APA style, the version 7, or the 7th edition. That is where the emphasis. And so if Grace, the name Jean comes before H, then it has to go like that. I think this is very, very important. There are times we just place it anyhow because we feel that the idea is from all of them, but it is always good that it follows some order. And the experts say that it should be in alphabetical order, and we agree. Again, it is not necessary to repeat an author's name when citing multiple works by the same author in a citation. Let me go to the next page and I'll explain that. Now, when you are using multiple works published in the same year by the same author, I think we see this in some of the articles that we read, where you can use alphabets to differentiate between works published by the same author in the same year. So I've done this work, I've published a number of articles in the same year, but you are writing and you are taking ideas and views from my article, or you are taking some of the findings from my article. It's important that you don't need to continue repeating, but you can use alphabet to show. And in using that alphabet, we use small caps and not capitals. So if it's A, it's small a, B, and C. The alphabetical ordering of references in the reference list will determine the allocation of A, B, C, and so forth. For example, Jenkins, 2018B. Jenkins, 2018A, claim that, or according to Jenkins, 2018A, then the views follow. And so in such a scenario, you want to say that all those views that you are taking appeared in the same year and in the same author. And so you want to show that the A means one of his articles, a view from a particular article, and then another one. Then citing a secondary source. When presenting an idea from an author, when you have not read the original work, but have found it paraphrased or quoted by someone else, acknowledge both the original author and the source author, because you have not actually read that from the original author. I think we know. And so once it's a secondary source, it is right to acknowledge that original author, but cite also the source from which you have gotten the information. So I give an example. For example, page 2016, as cited in Noble 2018, stated that in such a scenario, we know that the idea doesn't belong to Noble, but the idea is coming from Pete. So the original, it is good to cite that way, because at times the second source from which you are referencing or you are citing, maybe if that second source doesn't quote properly, or if the person has quoted properly, it's important that we know the original source of the material. Sometimes that secondary source also, if you follow maybe his reference, sometimes you can get the original person. But if you couldn't find the idea from that original person, then it's important that the secondary source is indicated, as we have just given an example, as cited in Noble. So if you are placing it at the end of the text, then both of them should be in the parentheses, or what we call brackets. It's very important. Now, what about an unknown author, where you don't know the author and you also don't know the date where the particular idea has been published? So if no author or date is given, use the title in your signal phrase. The signal phrase is for example, if I say, according to Amazon, so that's a signal phrase. Or Amazon 2007 observes that it's a signal phrase. And so that can show in your signal phrase where you don't know the author. Use the title in your signal phrase. So instead of saying, if I don't know Amazon, but I have seen a material, I know the title of that material, I can use the title of that material. So the first word or two of the title in the parentheses, and use the abbreviation, the ND, meaning no date. So you've taken the material, maybe it's a manuscript that has not been published, so there is no date. But the idea in that manuscript, it's good for your work and you want to take it. So you only indicate ND, which means that it doesn't have a date. It is better to acknowledge that than to be found wanting, maybe on the day of Viva or at another forum. For example, another study of student and research decisions discovered that students succeeded with tutoring. Now, this thing that I've given the example for doesn't have an author, okay, but it has a title. So if you cannot find the author or the title, APA says that use the title and the date, just use ND as we know it. And once you do that, you are covered. And you can reference that in the reference list. So where you have to put the date in the bracket, you put the ND. It's accepted. Now, what about if I'm citing from an organization? If the author is an organization or a government agency, mention the organization in the signal phrase or in the parentheses. The parenthetical citation. The first time you cite the source, mention the name of the organization. So I can say that according to the American Psychological Association, so I am duly acknowledging where the information is coming from. It's an organization. So I'm duly acknowledging that. If the organization has a well-known abbreviation, include the abbreviation in a bracket the first time the source is cited, and then use only the abbreviation in later citations. In fact, we do that most of the time. So, for example, if I have Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and it has an acronym MADD, if I'm citing it for the first time, cite it with the abbreviation, so that the subsequent ones in the text, you can just use the abbreviation, and it holds. So the second citation, the third, the fourth, if it has to appear in the text again, you can use the abbreviation. Now, let me say that no matter what we do in the in-text citation, it's never complete until it is also put in your reference list. Because somebody just told us that somebody did the work and about, is it 200 or citations, references were not found, though they were in the text. Then also another mistake we make most of the time is that because we have read a lot and we are not keeping track of what we are doing, there are times we even give references that do not appear in our thesis. So maybe you are stealing the idea from someone. It's advisable that sometimes when you are doing the thesis, you have a textbook solely for your references. So as you are writing, you are building it up. By doing so, you are not found wanting. And also if you are using any of those, like the Zotero and Medley and those things I talked about earlier, that also, for them, they help you. So once you've taken the idea and then you have reference in the text, you are likely to see it in your reference list. So you are not found wanting, because that can also be very critical, and it can fail a student. I take the reference column to be a whole chapter on its own. That's the way I look at it. Because if the reference list is not there, you are doomed. At times, at the Viva, you have professors who have read a lot over the years. And in some of the materials you are using, some are still on their shelves. And so when you want to dodge, somebody can just quote a whole lot of it from a material for you. So you want to dodge to say that, oh, it's like, he'll tell you that he will even quote the person and quote the page for you. So to be safe, if you are using some of those software, then it is easier. If not, then the students should have a book in which, once you are reviewing literature, please start noting some of the ideas you are taking, the references where they are coming from, and you are covered. In brief, we have been sitting down for a long time, and the lecture has been from morning till this afternoon. And so my session has been very brief, but I'll give opportunity for us to now have interaction in a form of questions, statements, and contributions. Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jikunu, for the presentation. Very important one, but that is quite brief too. Now we open the floor for interventions, questions about the presentation, on the presentation. There's a hand up there, there's another there. 1, 2,
Ladies.
What is the third person? 3. 3 people for now. Let's go.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. My question has to do with online citation, if you can throw more light on that. And then 2, that example you gave with Jikunu 2003. I have seen cases where the Jikunu, for example...
Please, online citation, what about that before you go to the number 2?
Okay, how we can properly do online citation as far as the APA is concerned. And then my second question has to do with the Jikunu 2003 situation, where sometimes you see it with a comma at the end. Is that correct, or you have to maintain it that way?
So let me tackle the first one. You talked about the online sources. Is that not it? Yeah, APA will say that if you are taking the material from online and there is an author to the material, use the author's name. Use the author's name. Now, when it comes to the reference list, in a situation where you are not able to tell the exact location where the item has been published, whether it's a journal, then the source, as in terms of the website where the material is coming from, is provided in addition to your reference at the reference list. So retrieved on so and so time, and then from there you indicate the source from which you are getting the material. Now, the other one that you are talking about, if you see some of the materials, some of the literature we are reading now, in some of the works we are reading, you see Jikunu, comma, then in bracket 2006. Is that not what you are referring to? Then in other instances, you see Jikunu without comma, and then the 2006. All these things is as a result of the version that we are getting from APA. Previous versions will tell you that you don't need to provide a comma. But this the version 7, you will see that there is a comma. And so it is an issue of edition. Okay? But it's good that when we are writing, you go by the most current edition. And if you go online, you go on Google, you can easily get the most current edition. I can also forward to Samson. If I have, I can forward to Madam Portia, and if students want the APA, the 7th edition, she can spread it so that you can get conversant with some of the issues there. Yeah. It's in fact the 7th edition from APA is very, very easy to understand, because whatever issue they have discussed, they provide examples. So it makes it very easy. There are other ones, when you look at them, they are a bit complex. But there is a particular one, when you get that one, every thing they have discussed, there is a provision for an example to tell you how it must be done. I don't know if I've answered your question. Right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. My question has to do with the software you made mention of, the Mendeley software. I would like to know briefly, how does it work and how do we get it?
Yeah, you can get Mendeley from the net, but somebody must help you. Yeah. Okay, don't want to answer.
Excuse me, that will be our next topic. So somebody is coming to work on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. My next question is, I've reviewed colleagues' work thesis, and then I realized that sometimes in their work, some of the statements or knowledge that they put in there are crossed out. And then I see the comments made to it is that they should get the necessary reference of the particular fact that has been said. But I feel like in that particular context, the student who is trying to share his knowledge on that particular topic, and then the comment says that he should get a reference to the particular comment that he has made. How do we go about it? Because sometimes maybe if I'm talking about a topic like maybe the use of the personal pronoun "un" by fellow student, and then I happen to share my own understanding, my own knowledge on that topic. Sometimes you see, the comment goes like, you should get a particular reference for what you are saying. I want to know, how do we get a reference for something that is coming out of the knowledge, or something that is coming out of you, something you feel is something that you understand and you are just sharing?
All right, so it is an issue sometimes about style, the way you present your language. You see, if you present a categorical statement, You are trying to comment on somebody's work, but it depends on how you carve out that information. If it becomes categorical, you are asked to provide a source. You see? So the whole thing is about the flair for writing. If you are writing and the idea is not for you, it depends on how you carve that idea out. If you carve it very well, that doesn't suggest that you are making a categorical statement referring to something that exists. If you say so, then you ask you for a source. But if you carve the statement in such a way that it suggests that you are only passing a comment, depending on how you have used it, you are safe to go. So sometimes it's the way the language. In an attempt to sometimes pass comment on someone's work, we tend to make certain categorical statements, which actually is not the case. And so they will tell you that this comment needs a reference. Yeah.
Sometimes that's what we call affirmation gratuite. You say something that you cannot confirm, you cannot support. That is it. You will be asked to prove or give a further distance to it.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. My last question. Sir, in your submissions, you talked about the citing more than one source for the same idea. And then you gave an example as Grace 2009 and Highness Butcher and Dozy 2004 and the National Animal Welfare Advisory Council 2007. But then you said it should be in an alphabetical order. But here I see Grace, which is starting with a capital with a G, and then Highness starting with H, followed by Butcher, who is starting with P. So the Highness there.
Yeah, Highness and Butcher, they are the same authors. It is three of them who are written the paper. Check it and see what I cited. So Grace is an individual author which starts with Jane. But Highness and Butcher are co-authors. And so when you are citing in their paper, Highness is the lead author. And so you can't bypass him and cite Butcher. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Third President.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity given. My question has to do with, in some document we see some.
Can I see the President?
I'm here, Prof.
Okay.
And so I would like to be given assistance on that so that I will understand. You will see that the outer one, the outer name will be there. Then they put, if it is in French, they will say A-R. And if it is English, they will say N-R, A-L. Then they open the bracket and put the year of publication. So I don't know that R is somebody's name or how come and then the L is there.
We are not clear. They put, what do they put into brackets? Eta.
Yeah. So I think he's talking about etal. So let's say Jikolo etal. That's what he doesn't understand. The etal, whether it's somebody's name.
The word is hello. It is Latin. This Italy, and co and so on. Means it's not one person. We and allies. It's Italy. That's why it's like that. When there are many and you can't put all the names there, you put the lead author and then add that, meaning there are others. There are other authors. Have you got it?
And also, if the authors are, you have co-authors, multiple authors, APA will tell you that for the first instance, you use the authors. The subsequent ones, you use et al. Yeah. So it means that the person is not a single author, but he has done the work with other authors. And for the first time, you want to see all the authors, but subsequent ones in the text, you just use the et al. Okay.
Is there any other person? Finally. I have a question. No problem.
Thank you. Please, if I'm doing inside citation.
Yes, let's hear you.
And I'm citing the person severally. How do I go about that?
Severally.
Yes, please.
The same word, the same
word.
year,
Yes.
but they have different.
You are citing the same person severally, but it is the same work and the same year. Yeah. In the work, once you have cited the person in the work already, you can just sometimes use the name of that person because the reference with the date is already in the work. So I'm writing Amuzu, and I want to make reference to him again. Maybe Amuzu 2004. I mentioned Prof. Amuzu because I'm in the same block with him, and he's one of my mentors. So, so I'm mentioning him more. Yeah, once you have made reference to that person with the date, yeah, and the same name is appearing in the work again, you can go by the name without necessarily bringing the date. It's accepted. Yeah.
I believe there's an issue of proximity also. When you go far away from what you cited, if it is far away, you can't continue using it in the same manner. But perhaps on the same page, you can do that.
Like process, for example, in your background, you are writing your background, your introduction, you cited somebody. Then far in the literature, you are using that same person's idea again. There, the date must come. Sometimes I say that to be safe, there's nothing wrong to continue writing the date. Just to be safe. Because on the day of your defense, it's possible some of the professors who may be sitting there have not read through the entire work. Yeah. Yeah, only the assistants read the work. And so they are seeing the thing like that, and they'll question you. And because you are under examination pressure, sometimes even responding, you will get confused along the line. Yeah, so to be said, I've been saying that, why don't you just reference it through? Yeah, it doesn't spoil anything.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Actually, referencing is one of the few occasions where you write somebody's name without a title. So my question is, how do you assign the alphabet? Because you mentioned that if, let's say, Amuzu has 3 publications in 2018, so one would be Amuzu 2018A, Amuzu 2018B. How do you decide which one should be the A?
Honestly, the one that comes first, that is the way you go. It's just like if you are indicating the alphabet. Okay, the most current one, the alphabet with, let's say if it's A, then the A should come. It's the same way when you are referencing the same person's work. And once you know the work, you know that one has been published before the other. So the A to take the B to take them.
Okay.
In the same year.
So it means what I will use for Amuzu 2018A will be the same Amuzu 2018A for another person who is using it.
If that person is also using his material,
Yes.
and both of
The
you
same material.
use the same material, then it should be like that. You can't bring the B before the A. No. You get that?
Is it not clear?
No.
It's not clear.
Okay, I understand that having read through the articles, you would have known which one appeared earlier. So in that case, the one that came first will be the A. So it means what I will reference as Amuzu 2018A will be the same Amuzu 2018A for another person. I mean, a writer cannot decide to make, is that the case? A writer can choose that, okay, I'm making this one A because it's the first one I'm using in my work. So that another person who is using the other one, yes, that's the clarity.
The president published 3 documents or articles in the same year.
Yes.
You are coming to use all the 3 for your work. So the first one is the A.
The first one I am using.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the B as is follows. But if another person is not using A, B, C, is using the second and the third, then his A will become the second one.
Okay. A last comment.
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity. A friend of mine told me that when he submitted his project work, the supervisor told him that his work is full of plagiarism, 100%.
100%.
100% plagiarism. If reference is important in a project work, how do we measure that plagiarism? How do we calculate it so that next time we can be cautious?
No, it's not well referenced. I think the question was not.
I think that the person was just cutting and pasting. Because if you have reviewed the literature properly, if they put it into turn it in, it should, if it comes out 100%, then the work is not yours. You are just cutting people's idea, putting the bang, 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 bang. At times when we are reviewing, the way we review sometimes, you see there is no actually, there's no review there. What you see is, Prof said this, Prof said that, Prof said just like that, going, that you are reviewing, no comment, no comparison, no contradiction, where you come in to draw the line and those things. If you are not doing that, when they put the work in, it's likely to show that all that you have there is somebody's idea. Yeah. I don't know the benchmark that university has. Because in other jurisdictions, you should have about 80-something% as your personal work. Okay. That is very more than 21%. Yeah, it's very, very important. So if you are doing your literature, where we take a lot of materials from is when we are doing literature review. Yeah, and that is where the flair for the language must work. But I see where we have problem from is that before you even identify the topic, you have not read. You have not read anything. You took your copy from home. You didn't read anything. In fact, you should take your time to read a lot of articles here and there before you settle on the topic. By so doing, you see that you are well versed in the issues in that discipline. So when you are writing literature, it becomes easier to draw the similarities and the contradictions, and the missing link will be coming out. So that is important. Oftentimes I see that we do not read enough. Maybe as I'm coming, this is what I want to do. And so that topic is still running in your head. And sometimes it poses problem whether you will even get literature to do the thesis.
That's why I've been talking about review critique, analysis critique, and come-round critique. You just don't put someone's work there and move on and continue. Say something. What do you think about it? How relevant is this to your work? Review critique, analysis critique, come-round critique. That is it. That's the way to go. If not, you will get 100% plagiarism.
I think see, we are looking forward to a time where Association of African Universities, that is headquartered in Ghana, should have a referencing style for us in Africa. We can continue everything if we don't put Criswell for research. Every time, everywhere, we have seasoned professors also in Ghana who have contributed a lot to knowledge. Yes, Ghana and Africa. And so we are looking forward to a point where University of Ghana, for example, having been there for so many years, I think over 70 years or so, if University of Ghana comes out with a style of referencing, it cannot even be rejected by Oxford. I believe so. So we now have Association of African Universities in Ghana. But up to now, we don't have our own house style. We have to be running after MLA, Chicago, APA, here and there. And yeah, they are always changing. Today we have bought the 7th edition. Very soon they will say that one is a cake. Go and buy 8th edition. Why can't we have our own house style? Or a particular university like University of Education, we have the right to award our own degrees. Yeah, up to doctoral. Why can't we have a reference? Maybe it's a question that we should be interrogating since the experts are here, the professors are here. They have to raise it in academic board meeting and then we'll continue interrogating the issues. Thanks.
I think this session is also ending. We'll be breaking for lunch briefly and come for the last presentation before we close. So, as it is now, we need to have about 20 minutes break for lunch and then quickly converge to take the last presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll come back.
Okay. Thank you. Let's give him a hand as it goes down. So briefly, probably get your lunch, start eating. If you're already eating, cooking it up. In some 15 to 20 minutes time, would have the last session, which would go deeper into referencing. Okay.